Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Major MCE X012. This is an extension for a typical mortise cylinder, and Major has a pretty comprehensive offering of these extensions along with the tools that are required to go about getting the standard cylinders prepped for it. I have only personally extended Caba Ilco mortise cylinders, but I've done it personally, and I can attest to the success of the process. And, you know, basically where you're going to use these is when you have an immediate need for an unusual length mortise cylinder that you just can't get your hands on otherwise. And generally you'll only find stocked up to 1.5 inch length Caba Ilco mortise cylinders, and even 1.5 inches it'll generally be in the very most common of keyway, like a Schlage C or a composite Schlage, etc. You might have an immediate need for 1.75 inch, like I need it tomorrow. You might have a need for a 2.5 inch, or any unusual combination of lengths that you can achieve based on the net length that you're going to start with, and then the different extensions that are available, which I think are 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, and 1 inch. I know that I believe I've done 2.5 inch is what I think that I've done. I've never stacked two extensions together, but wouldn't hesitate really to do that because one will end up being a spacer, really. And it's worked out with complete success. You can generally purchase from some residential manufacturers longer cylinders, because people who make residential entrance, grip style, mortise locks, they'll have longer cylinders in stock ready to go because they generally will deal with doors routinely that are greater than 1.75 inches, 2.25, and thicker. So you'll find cylinder lengths, you know, in the 2 inch range on hand ready to go. But you might not have the keyway that you want, or you might not have the finish that you want. You might not be able to get it in the first place. You might not want to have to be restricted to purchasing these cylinders when you can start with, you know, what's going to be in stock from Caba Ilco. Well, 15/16, 1 inch, 1.1 inch, 1.25 inch, 1.5 for sure. So you've got all these base lengths. And then onto that, you can add your multiples of your extensions. So you can really get creative. You know, if it's 3 weeks waiting for a 3-inch mortise cylinder and the client doesn't have that time, I really wouldn't hesitate to start with, you know, whatever cylinder I had in stock and then just add extensions. The only thing you'll have to do is come up with longer screws for that purpose. I'm not exactly sure what thread that is, but I'll determine that before the end of this video. Okay. I did pause this video to determine that is indeed an 832 thread. So if you're going to stack these extensions, and they're not 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, 1 inch, they're half inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, and 1.25 inch. So you could easily make cylinders much longer. You know, no doubt you're going to need a longer. If you stack these, you'll need longer screws. So since I'm talking about stacking them, for this 1/2 inch extension, this screw length is basically 3/4. Okay, so whatever you're going to extend, get that screw 3/4 inch longer is what it would be. So when you buy an extension, it's going to include this machined brass part. Typical 1 5/32 of an inch thread. That is the common thread size on our standard mortise cylinders. There are 4 diameters of mortise cylinders that I'm aware of. 3/4 inch peanut cylinders, 1 5/32 standard cylinder mortise cylinders, 1.5 inch master ring or duplex or just jumbo cylinders popularized by P.F. Corbin, 2 inch mogul cylinders that you will see in detention work, high security detention work. But just for our 1 5/32, this is the extension. And as I said, I've done this personally myself. I've done a handful of them. There's no real way to make it go fast because you've got to drill the holes accurately. You then have to tap the holes, switch out your fixture. I do own the Major guide, the MCE 100 tool for doing this. And it's only because, you know, well, I believe in having templates for doing work. I don't believe in freehanding something. But in this case, you will realize the importance of getting the hole exactly in the right position so that the extension fits over the cylinder, so that you have really have one vertical axis of pivoting that needs to be spot on. And where you drill those two holes is going to determine how spot on that vertical axis is, because when you have that screwed on and then you have the key and you rotate that, and the drive cam that you'll need to buy as well needs to move smoothly inside of this. And if it's not, the key's not going to turn really nice. So getting it drilled exactly accurate is pretty important. And that template, I've used it, and I was you have to learn the personality of the tool is what I'm driving at. Once I learned its personality, how to tighten the screws so that I got equal setting on basically getting my cylinder clamped into the fixture, then I found that when I drilled the holes, tapped them, and screwed this on, so yeah, that's pretty smooth. Back one screw off, back the other screw off, tighten it. Yeah, that's going to work out really well. That sort of routine. So this worked out just perfect doing that in the past. And, you know, it's only limited by your available time. The thickness of this 1/2 inch is, according to the caliper, 0.501. 0.501. Okay. Okay, what you're going to get in the packaging, of course, will be the brass extension itself. That's 1/2 inch. And again, to confirm, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1 inch, 1.25 inch. Those are the lengths. Drilled and countersunk for the fasteners. Obviously, then the extension is going to fit. You'll get this other piece. This other piece is called the extension, or at least that's what I call it. And what happens is this emulates the backside of the plug that you have now. You're also going to get the two screws to attach that to the back of the drilled and tapped mortise cylinder. Then two tiny screws to hold your cam on. Okay, so what you need with this, and they keep it modular. You've got the extensions, then you have drive cams. The reason they're separate is because they make different drive cams for different cylinders, and they have 10 different drive cams. And the one that I use is the MCE-D1 because it's the Kaba Ilko version. And it's because Kaba Ilko, that's what's in stock. But they have them for Medico, for Aero, for Sargent, for Corbin Russwin, for GMS IC cores, for standard conventional GMS. They have them for Abloy ProTech, of all things. Abloy ProTech. I'm not surprised that they would have an extension for a ProTech cylinder, because you can probably only get standard lengths of a ProTech cylinder quickly. I can't tell you what a standard length would be. I have an Abloy cylinder here somewhere in my collection. It's probably 1.25 inch. It might be. I don't think it's a rim cylinder, but if you needed a 2-inch ProTech, yeah, I think you're going to be attempting to extend that. Yale. ASA, another high security cylinder. Schlage large format IC as well. The trouble with Schlage is they've changed their design, and Schlage has continued to change their design over the years and years and years, much to the frustration of many people, including myself. So whether or not that's going to be compatible with the current Schlage lock, that could be, that may not be the case, because they're always changing their designs. And basically all it is when you the drive cam, or the drive extension, and they do properly call it the drive cam is what they call it. You're going to remove that cam from the back of your mortise cylinder. Okay, the drive cam will go on there. This will go on there. Then the sleeve will go down and sit over all of it. So your drive cam is going to fit inside of here. That's what it's going to look like when it's done. Your drive cam fits inside of there, okay, and then to the back of your mortise cylinder. And once the drilling and the tapping are done, you just screw it all together, put your cam on there, and you're done. Okay. Assuming that when you install it, the extension won't be to the thousandths of an inch accurate on the back of the body, just be mindful as you're threading it in. You might get a little oval sort of movement out of your cylinder, but just use the very tactile part of your fingertips, your pads, your fingertips, to be very sensitive when you're threading that in, because it might not thread as a nut over a bolt. You might need to be a bit more aware of it. But you don't want to install that when it's not correct, because then the cylinder's traveling like this through your hole. If you have a hole, obviously you'll have a hole in your door, but through your cylinder collar or your escutcheon as well. Let's switch to the screen view and just take a closer look summary at the documentation. There is a link below this video to the cut sheet, which is here, and this is going to give us a summary. It's a 2-page summary, in fact, of what we're dealing with. So at the top of the first page is the MCE 100 tooling that you would use, and you basically have a plate back here that you insert the cylinder into, the back end of it, and you secure it to it. You then have the faceplate that you use as both the drill guide and then the tap guide, so that you're tapping the holes very accurately, and it works. And adjusting it, getting to know the personality I mentioned earlier, is really just learning how these two screws keeps that cylinder completely under the plate as necessary. You get the Allen wrenches, you get a tap handle and an 832 tap, along with the proper size diameter bit for 832. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. That's just a reference to a chart. And then a stop that's on here, held with a set screw, so you know when to discontinue drilling, so that you don't drill through the front of your cylinder or get too close to it. Here are the 4 extensions. Sizes I have mentioned here. The drive cams, those are on page 2, and this is the list of those drive cams necessary, and that your finished product is going to be right here. Okay, really neat, and it works well. And you can, you can't, like I said earlier, you can't really rush the process. You can't drill overly fast, and you certainly can't tap overly fast. But you can sit there and do them all day. I've spent a couple hours making cylinders, and it is not difficult work. So there you go. So that ProTech, that D7A, they show it here. It's hard to know if that's what it looks like, but you've got a representation of what it will look like when it arrives. And again, the one that I use is the D1, because I'm doing Caba Ilco cylinders. I've wanted to do Schlage in the past, Schlage cylinders, conventional cylinders, but they've got their modular design now, and the drive cams are not compatible with that. So be mindful, just double check, and that's what you're dealing with. Now, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page, and from that page you can pull up not only all of the major products that we sell by means of that horizontal navigation, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. When you click on that catalog, you're going to find 100+ pages of parts, security hardware that suits the locksmith industry and their client base. You're going to find installation aids and tools like this for the locksmithing industry, in both ways to modify material that you have, but also to do preparations from scratch. And what I mean by that is just, let's scroll through. If you wanted to prep aluminum storefront for, aluminum storefront hardware or electric strikes in the jams, they have all the templates for doing so. I can't say that they have all of the templates for doing so, but they have an excellent system by which to do that. This HIT 45, I sold a client recently an entire system so that they could mortise in the field for both the door and the frame, the strikes in the frame, aluminum storefront wide style for Schlage L9000 series mortise locks. And, it's an investment in tooling, but the client did not want to delegate this and then have his rough carpenters doing this one by one. You need to ritualize the process of prepping doors and frames, and this material allows you to do that. Okay. Here is a lock mortiser. This would be used, of course, when you're going to be doing a wood door. This sort of lock mortiser kit. I've never used this in the past. I've used a similar tool. but you need to get that 8" by 1¼ prep in the edge of the door one way or another. And that's one of the ways that they have. You could also use that hit 45 to put a clamp onto the edge of the door and then just simply use your router to do it. So really helpful. If you're a locksmith, I'm quite sure that I would be surprised if you weren't already familiar with Major. And if you're someone who doesn't get into the work very often, I can tell you that their build quality seems quite excellent on their tools, and I would certainly suggest that you consider making the investment in their tools. You know, a lot of people that I sell this material to, they're not carpenters. They're not finish carpenters. They're not people who use routers on a daily basis. And while I can describe the way to make your own templates, as I've done it lots and lots of times, quite frankly, most people just are not interested in doing that. And there are times when I wouldn't certainly be interested in doing it either, because it doesn't make sense to make the kit on your own, the template on your own. But there are times when simply the template doesn't exist, and then you end up making it on your own. So Major does an excellent job when it comes to making these kits available to market. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Now, in conclusion, you are welcome to order these parts, and you're also welcome to order the cylinders extended by us. We'll be happy to do that for you for a charge, naturally. If you have any questions on the MCE X012 half-inch extension kit to extend mortise cylinders or any other Major Manufacturing product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you.